Good Sunday morning and welcome to WGN-TV Political Report. I'm Paul Lisnick. As the Trump administration continues to slash federal funding, leaders across Illinois are working to find out what the impact's going to be here and what, if anything, can be done to stop it. Last week, Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul joined 22 other states to sue the Trump administration over $11 billion in federal health care funding cuts. The lawsuit argues the funding cuts are illegal, will cause serious harm to public health by making it hard to fight future pandemics and stop the spread of disease. The funding fight isn't just hitting state governments hard. Local municipalities also bracing for impact as programs that rely on federal dollars start to shut down. My guest is working to guard the town of Evanston from those cuts, and he just won re-election to a second term. Evanston Mayor Daniel Biss. Welcome back to the show, and congratulations, Mayor.
Thank you, Paul. It's great to be back.
Hard-fought battle as they always are, but here you are, and problems on your plate.
Plenty of them.
Let's start with that, with the public health funding cuts. Because you let me know, because some of the, we won't feel them for a while. Are you feeling them yet? How are you feeling them? And what are you going to do about it?
Well, the Trump administration is operating in a way of maximum chaos on purpose. They want to keep us guessing. And so we're still trying to get to the bottom of what the impact of the public health cuts you just described, which are, by the way, going to cut Illinois public health infectious disease efforts by $125 million. That might mean as much as $1 million of cuts to us when it comes to the work that we're doing to keep our own residents healthy from infectious disease. So what are we doing? First of all, we've prepared in advance to build up any reserves possible, to understand how we can find efficiencies in our health department to continue maintaining services, but also looking to philanthropic sources to backfill, because these services are critical.
You're a city mayor, so obviously you have to deal with your congressperson and the other representatives of Congress. But candidly, right now in these days, is there anything they can do so you send them off and say, go to Washington and fix this?
Well, Congresswoman Schakowsky's been an extraordinary partner. She's fighting tooth and nail against these absurd attacks coming from the Trump administration. Obviously, Democrats are not in the majority, and they're dismissed completely by Trump. But there's opportunities, first of all, to partner with other members of Congress who may be Republicans, who may support Trump, but don't want to see their own constituents harmed, sick, hospitals closing, and so forth. And we're also going to go to court. Right? We don't believe that a lot of these cuts are legal. We think that they're in violation of the Impoundment Act and they're reckless. And we don't just expect to accept this. We're going to fight and do what we can to restore the funding.
So another world of changes by the Trump administration has to do with DEI policies, and those are being removed from pretty much everywhere. And it comes down to the local level as well, although you're not necessarily impacted by by these federal laws. However, you do have Northwestern University in Evanston. It's a private institution, but yet they have been responding to the Trump administration's removing things off their website, responding to the DEI. What is your reaction to that? And are they doing the right thing?
No, I don't think so. Look, here's my view. The attacks from the Trump administration are dangerous. They are an assault on who we are as a people. And the worst thing you can do is to preemptively concede, to give them what they want without a fight. What does that do? That empowers them.
You've publicly called it preemptive conceding.
You bet. You bet. That's what it is. And I think that will simply empower the Trump administration. They'll come back and ask for more faster. I think we have to fight for what we believe in. We have to fight for who we are. That's the only way we're going to make it through these 4 years.
But if a private university like Northwestern says, look, we have grants, we have funding, we have other things, they can get us. We see what the administration is doing to other universities, Columbia, Harvard, and other places. So is it understandable to you that Northwestern would, and I don't know the motive of their action, but let's just say act out of concern at the loss of funding?
Of course, these are really tough decisions, and they have to be handled on a case-by-case basis. But I do think that all of us, whether we're mayors or university presidents or heads of nonprofits or heads of businesses, are confronted with the question of, we know what Trump wants, we know it's not right, we know that he's vindictive, so should we just keep our head down and give him some of what he wants without him even fighting for it? I think that's the wrong approach. You know, I recently, right before the inauguration, I reread Timothy Snyder's book on tyranny. And it's 20 pieces of advice for people dealing with authoritarian leaders. The first one is, do not obey in advance, because when you obey in advance, you cede more power to them, and that's how authoritarians get stronger. I take that advice to heart.
So it sounds like you are implementing that in any way you can within the Evanston environment. Let's go to your environment that you can control. What is the city doing in terms of policy to address it? But let me add a second point to that. There are people who support the administration's position who would say to you, look, Mayor, you know, you shouldn't get your job based on your race or your gender or anything else. It should be merit only. What's wrong with that?
Well, you know, it's interesting that the administration seems to be saying merit only, and then they fill their leadership with white men who do things like share war plans with a reporter on a Signal chat. I don't think that's what someone who's chosen by merit would have done. You know, they seem to be on a warpath trying to go after and target women, people of color, people who are not from groups that are favored, to purge them from the administration. That's not about merit, that's the opposite of merit. So what I would say is this: in Evanston, we believe in protecting our people. A week before the inauguration, we passed an ordinance creating the strongest welcoming city ordinance in the state to make sure that immigrants and refugees are not going to be attacked by the Trump administration with the help of the city of Evanston. We're working on similar legislation to protect reproductive rights in Evanston. And look, we do respect the authority of the federal government. We don't pretend that we have the ability to preempt them, but we also have the ability to control how we act. And we're not going to cooperate with policies that we see as totally inconsistent with our mission as a city government.
You're also dealing with the issue of anti-Semitism, obviously, as a city, but also Northwestern dealing with it as well. What is your sense of how Evanston is dealing with it and how the campus is dealing with it?
Well, we take it extremely seriously. Evanston is a place where any form of hate is totally unacceptable, where anti-Semitism is unacceptable, along with every other form of hate, whether it's racism or misogyny or Islamophobia or anti-LGBT bigotry. We take them all equally seriously, and I'm proud to say that Northwestern has really tackled this issue as well. And I think this goes with the question of DEI. The mission here is to make the campus safe and welcoming and inclusive for everybody. That's Jewish students, that's people of color, that's trans individuals, it's everybody else. That's what makes a learning environment thrive. And you can't expect people to learn well if they aren't safe and welcome on campus.
Just briefly, a minute left, but in Evanston, you were dealing in the election. A big issue was Envision Evanston 2045. Mm-hmm. You and your opponent differed about all that, and when upon your victory, you said, let's work together. Can you explain, just for viewers who come to Evanston, may not live there, what's going to happen with Envision Evanston 2045?
You know, I want Evanston to be a place where our public school teachers can afford to live, where our nurses and public safety workers can afford to live. I want our diversity to be reflected in every neighborhood of Evanston. And I want there to be a diversity of housing stock so you can have different people from different walks of life living together in the same neighborhood. That's what this project is all about. It's about affordable housing. It's about making sure that a community like Evanston, where people want to be, is attainable to middle-class families. And we're going to work together with people from all different points of view in all different neighborhoods to develop zoning policies that actually achieve that objective.
So with just a few seconds left, but the Healthy Building Ordinance passes. Is that tied to this and to that vision?
It's a different project, but it's part of our climate initiative, and it's about decarbonizing our largest buildings by the year 2050. It's an important part of our sustainability initiative, and I'm really proud of that landmark ordinance that we passed just a few weeks ago, and I hope that other communities in Illinois will follow suit.
All right. Mayor of Evanston, Daniel Biss, former Senator Daniel Biss. I knew you back then. Congratulations again on your re-election, and good luck in the new term.
I appreciate it,
We're going to stay in touch with you.
It's great to be here.
And we're going to take our first break. Still to come on WGN TV Political Report.
The loudest voice for our team in Springfield is me.
What's on Mayor Brandon Johnson's agenda at the Illinois State House and why he's adding to his lobbying team there? But first, she spent 2 tumultuous years in Washington, starting with an insurrection, working through a pandemic. Former Illinois Congresswoman Marie Newman is out with a new book about her life's lessons. They're there for you to learn as well. She's here to talk about it. We'll be right back.